Welcome to We Chat Divorce, hosted by Karen Chellew, Legal Liaison, and Catherine Shanahan, CDFA. Each episode, we sit down with divorce professionals and industry experts to provide insights and frank discussions about real people, real situations, and real divorce to help you achieve your best life post-divorce. This episode of We Chat Divorce is brought to you by My Divorce Solution, offering divorce financial planning so clients can secure the divorce settlement they deserve. Visit mydivorcesolution.com to request access.
A moment in divorce where everything shifts. You realize this isn't just emotional, it's legal, it's strategic, and the decisions that you make now will impact your life, your finances, and your children for years to come. And if you're unprepared, it can feel like you're 2 steps behind before you ever get started. Welcome back to We Chat Divorce, brought to you by My Divorce Solution. I'm Karen Chellew, Legal Liaison, helping you navigate with clarity, structure, and confidence.
And I'm Catherine Shanahan, Certified Divorce Financial Analyst. And at MDS, we believe preparation isn't just about numbers. It's about understanding your full picture so you can make informed, confident decisions about your future.
One of the biggest misconceptions we see is that once you hire an attorney, you're protected. We hear that every day. It's like you just hand the big box of everything of your marriage to them and life's going to be okay. But the reality is how your case is handled, how information is communicated, and even what you rely on to make decisions can all put you at risk before your case ever begins.
It's actually where people get overwhelmed because you're navigating something deeply emotional while being expected to think clearly, advocate for yourself, and make long-term decisions all at the same time while you're not even financially informed.
So if you've ever wondered, am I protecting myself the right way, or what should I actually be focusing on right now? This conversation is for you.
We always say you don't need to have everything figured out today, but understanding how to protect yourself is a powerful place to begin.
So today we're breaking down what actually protects you and where people unknowingly put themselves at risk.
And really, Jessica, we spoke to the attorney, and I liked asking, her big thing, what was it? Why you leave good attorneys, or
yeah,
right?
Why people leave good attorneys? Yeah.
It's a good question. Are they good attorneys? Is it you that you're the problem, or is the attorney their problem? And if you're curious about that, just stay tuned.
For sure. And I just want to add there that it's often when a new client comes in, they're complaining about their attorney and things aren't going well. And we know that it's probably because they're just not financially prepared. And so the attorney isn't getting clear direction. So often I'll say, okay, well, let's get on a call with your attorney. Let's all get reset here moving forward. And there's enough times that the client realizes that once they get organized and clear, their attorney can be very effective for them in a way they had not seen before. So I think this conversation with Jessica really helped lay that out in a better way. Jessica, welcome to We Chat Divorce. We're so glad to have you with us today.
Thank you, Karen. I appreciate it. Thank you for having me.
Of course. For our listeners, attorney Jessica Marshall from Chicago, Illinois, is a highly accomplished family law attorney known for her strong advocacy, courtroom confidence, and unwavering commitment to protecting her clients and their children. She has successfully handled complex legal matters, including appellate work at the federal level and cases involving the division of military pensions. Jessica is known for standing firm in what matters most, helping parents with their children, protecting families from abusive situations, and guiding clients through high-stake legal decisions with clarity and strength. So again, we're looking forward to this conversation, but let's start at the beginning. Jessica, what drew you to this work? Was there a defining moment where you realized this right here, family law, is where I could make my biggest impact?
Yeah, it started before law school, and I think I'm probably one of few kids of divorced parents that came out okay, where everything wasn't super messy and awful. And I really strongly felt that I wanted to work with people, but I had a brain that worked really in more of a legal way. I liked to read. I argued a lot. My parents often told me I'd make a great attorney. And so I was between psychology and law for a very long time. And I sort of fell into family law thinking that that would be the best of both worlds and give me the opportunity to work with people during hard times in their lives and try to help them. Um, and it really, I mean, the psychology component is certainly there. Not that I take health insurance or that I'm certified to deal with that, but certainly in this area of law, you deal with a lot of complex emotions. And it's really just always been my desire to work with people and help them. So this was a good fit.
It's great. And kudos to you for taking your life experience and making a difference and an impact for so many people who need it for sure.
Well, thank you. I think it definitely provides a lot of different perspective because as an adult, it can be hard to think what this might be like as a child unless you went through it yourself. And so I think that it's really helpful when advising families and advising clients to have been a teenager in that position because you see it from every side.
Yeah,
So,
yeah, for sure. And so, Jessica, I noticed on your website that your firm really advocates for how you all are shaping how family law is practiced in Chicago and
mhm.
understanding what it takes to lead in that space. So, can you talk about that and how you feel that the way your law firm is leading out is making a difference? Because so many people going through divorce or a family law situation, they get lost in the system and they don't feel represented. And we're going to talk about that in a little bit, why clients leave good lawyers. But can you talk to our audience about how you all are positioning yourselves to make a real difference for people facing divorce?
Yeah, so at the crux of what we do, I mean, we really emphasize that communication is key. And I've noticed that with a lot of clients that come to us when they've been with other firms before, they don't know what's going on with their case. They don't know what happened in court. They didn't know they had court. I mean, we really try to keep the door as open as possible to work collaboratively with our clients. It's not just they give it to us and we run with it. They have input. They know when their court dates are. Even if it's not something where they have to attend, they know that they can and they have that option and they're given the information to do so. They hear about what happened in court right away, and it's really a partnership. And I think that a lot of times clients don't feel that it's a partnership with their attorney. They just feel like they're a number. And that we really strive to make sure that our clients know that we're here to work with them and not just talk at them and provide updates here and there. So we do take a collaborative approach to all of the cases that we handle.
So when you say this, you would think, I would think if I'm listening or if I'm going through a divorce, my attorney would have made me aware of court dates. Like this should be
Hmm.
nothing new. So the
Yeah.
clients that you have received that said, I didn't even know there were a court date, like you just said, how can that be
Hmm.
possible?
I don't know why these things happen. I think that during the pandemic, it sort of got worse because court dates would happen virtually. And it has continued that a lot of statuses and things where it's just a check in with the judge will happen virtually. And learning to manage your day when you are going from being in person or having an assistant do things for you and seeing them after court and saying, hey, can you send the order to the client? Attorneys are not the best always at being organized. I mean, I am, but a lot of attorneys are not. And so, with this disruption to their day and being thrown out of their routine, I suspect that some of them, maybe who aren't as technologically savvy, they don't know how to send the Zoom information. Or it's just they didn't think that the client needed to be there or they didn't want to deal with the client at the court date. Um, it happens. I mean, it's shocking to me. I mean, it's really not that shocking to me, if I have to be honest with you, because I've had situations where I've come into a case and I've tried to get a hold of an attorney as, the opposing counsel, and there's ethic rules that indicate they're supposed to respond to me. And I can't get, it's like I need a sign of life. I'm like Googling obituaries to see if I can find them. And so it's surprising that when someone is paying them, that they wouldn't like make an effort to stay in touch. But it's really also, it's not, because I've dealt with attorneys like that as an adversary. And it's
Yeah.
crazy. I mean, I've set trial dates before simply because I can't get an attorney to do anything. Which is a
So
shame, but
I love that you're an attorney and you're saying exactly what I'm thinking, because I'm not an attorney, but I get so frustrated for our clients. And gosh, Karen, how many times do I say to you a week? And this is in every state, not just one state. So I can't even call out a state where
right.
attorneys just respond at the last minute, if that, and they're not aware of the case and they're done with their client or annoyed with their client or what have you. And even the clients that are paid up to date, they just had
Yeah.
enough of the case. And I just don't know how they get away with it, honestly.
Yeah, I don't know either. I mean, there's something to be said for not maybe the client not knowing that that's not normal, right? If they've only had one lawyer and they've not switched and they don't understand that this is not something that all firms do. But I mean, there have been times where I've just like wished, I know it's terrible, but I've like wished that the opposing party would just get a new attorney because it would make things so much easier in terms of communication. And I have a lot of clients that have come to us from other firms that are just like, I don't know. I don't know when my next court date is. I don't know what happened in court 2 weeks ago. And I'm looking at the docket and I'm just like, there's no order in here. What's going on? And they're like, I have no idea.
Yeah.
So I think it probably is a national problem.
I think
But
so. And Jessica, I'm going to guess that your clients, just because of the way you lead your practice, they're getting in the data to you for their financial disclosures and their discovery responses and those types of data that you need to process their case. But it can't move, to your point, until you have the opposing side or the spouse's information, which often is the same information you already have. I understand that. And so that's where we'll get panic calls, saying my case isn't moving. I don't know what to do. I have a hearing next week. And it really is an issue because they've spent so much money getting all of the data and documents to their attorney, but they can't do anything about the stalling out. So, I know some states have these scheduling conferences where the judge will attempt to move the case forward. I don't know how effective that is, but I'm guessing that that's what you see in your practice and why you would then conclude that there are reasons of why clients leave good lawyers.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, absolutely. And I think that sometimes it may be that their attorney is doing everything they can, but to your point, the other side is not, cooperating. They're not getting stuff in. They're not sending their data or their financial affidavits. And the client might just say enough of this. Like, even if the attorney is a good lawyer, they may just be fed up with how long it's taken to get to that point in the process and say, I'm moving on.
Can you as an attorney, you mentioned your frustration with other attorneys when you're waiting for the information from them. Can you file something against the attorney themselves?
So it really depends on the circumstances. It depends on why you're trying to get in touch with them and what's happening. If it's in regards to missing discovery or documents that are not being sent over, as long as you're already in an active case and you're not doing like a collaborative case where nothing's been filed, you could certainly follow the rules and go through the process to be able to file a motion to compel the discovery. You can ask for a sanction per day that the documents aren't tendered. But it depends on where you are in the process. And it's not even necessarily filed against the lawyer, it's against the client because you really don't know who it is that's causing the delay. You just know there's a deadline and it's not being abided by. So there's that. But in these situations, you want to handle it delicately because you work with the same attorneys over and over again. And a lot of people think that, you know, the attorney that puts up the fight and is just really nasty to the other lawyers, yeah, they're fighting for me. But the truth is, if you want to get things done, you want to have good relationships with these people. You don't want to burn bridges. So you have to be very delicate in how you address it. And I've had situations where I've told a judge, we've been trying to get this information, we can't get it, even though nothing's on file at the court appearance. And then usually the judges are pretty good about lecturing and putting things in orders and reinforcing deadlines. But it's really situational.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Just like human beings, right? We're all very unique to our own situation.
Right.
So Jessica, here at My Divorce Solution, we're all about helping people become financially prepared, getting your documents, understanding what they mean, so that when you as an attorney are asking, what you have and what you want, they're coming from a place of knowing and understanding the financial impact versus emotion. So can you talk about the contrast between clients who are financially informed when they walk into your office and clients who are not financially informed when they walk into your office?
Yeah, absolutely. We take people at any state that they're at. We take them where they are, and there's no shame in somebody not knowing. And they're not alone in that, as you know, in what you do.
Yes.
But really, when we have somebody who is more financially savvy and they understand the documents and they understand, the employment benefits that their spouse has been entitled to, it does help us because a lot of times these companies will do things very differently. And even if we do a subpoena to an employer, we may not get the full picture of what's going on as far as compensation, just as an example. And so when the spouse has reviewed documents and they know, that there's an equity component or a profit sharing component, these are things that you might not necessarily get documents on. And it can be very helpful in terms of figuring out what our ask is. Furthermore, it's, attorneys in Illinois can't give any sort of tax advice. And if it's a big estate, there's certainly something to be said for knowing the tax consequences of what types of accounts you're getting. So as we all know, when you divide an estate, if it's, for example, a 50-50 division, you don't have to go through every account and divide it in half. If there's cash, you might be able to take more of the cash in lieu of something that's less liquid. And for the client to sort of have an idea of what these accounts do and what they are and what's in them and what they need, right? That's super helpful for us because we're not financial planners. We're here to divide your stuff and make sure that, you get a fair shake. But the long-term consequences of what you're receiving, you need to know what those are. And so it's definitely more helpful when our clients come in and they're ready and they know, just from my experience anyway.
Yeah. And we get a lot of when people first come to us, well, doesn't my attorney do that? And, it's a very common question. And I think there's a misnomer that when you hire an attorney, that they're going to be able to help you understand the financial impact, just exactly what you said of what it means to you, these division scenarios and the financial analysis. I think because there is financial discovery, of course, it is a transaction. They believe that their attorney will give them that advice. And some attorneys maybe give some financial advice, but to your point, in that settlement agreement, they have to sign that they understand that they weren't given financial advice or tax advice. And I think that's a surprise sometime at the end of a case.
Yeah, absolutely. I agree with you. And it's something that can be avoided when you take the steps to prepare, right? But it's a matter of you don't know what you need until someone tells you to. And so I know we're big advocates for telling our clients, go talk to your advisor. If you don't have one, let us know if you need referrals. Let's do a joint call, even though there's no privilege, just to sort of talk about what we should ask for now that we have everything. It's a common occurrence for us in situations, especially where our client isn't the breadwinner.
Yeah, that's really wonderful. And what we can offer, we call it a consultancy agreement that protects in that space, that helps not only you, but the clients as well.
Yeah, that's wonderful.
Yeah. Well, thank you for that.
Sure.
And I know the other thing that we wanted to touch on today is AI generated legal documents showing up in court. I think
Oof.
this is a growing trend exponentially across the United States. So, what is
Mhm.
it like in an attorney's chair when this is starting to happen, or when you see it? It's clearly noticeable. I don't think clients realize how easy it is to identify it when it comes through the door.
Yeah, I mean, certainly those bullet points are like a dead giveaway. The bullet points and no typos. Have you heard about this whole thing? That now
No.
there's like an AI generating software that will do your emails, but they'll put typos in because it's a sign that it was not done by AI. Like they'll
Oh.
purposefully put anyway. But I mean, listen, I can't blame people for wanting to use the tools that are at their disposal, especially in a divorce. I mean, my clients are not Fortune 500 companies. They're paying a lot of money for attorneys' fees and for legal advice, and they want to save what they can. I don't blame them for looking into, AI sources. But the problem is that so many of the sources, they're your number one cheerleader, first of all. If you ask it a question, it wants to tell you yes. It's just the nature of the beast. And so if it says like, is my client, is my husband hiding assets? Yes, it certainly seems that way. And here's some things you can do. So it's a yes man is the first problem. The second problem is that a lot of the case law and sources that are raised by the AI generating software are not real, or they're not accurately cited. As I've read numerous appellate court opinions of attorneys being sanctioned for citing cases that are not real. And then the third sort of pitfall, and one of the things that's more recent, is there was a case out of New York recently where the court determined that what somebody was putting into their AI software, a client, was discoverable in discovery, similar to like a social media account post. So if somebody is using the AI generated software to try and strategize, and they're putting stuff in that would otherwise be privileged. It is not privileged the second you put it into that search engine, if all these other states follow suit with what had happened in New York recently. So these are things that clients need to be aware of right at the beginning, because it's frightening. But when I get it, I really I don't blame them. I'll embrace it. If there's something there that I haven't seen before, I'll look into it. If there's a case that's referenced, I'll read it. I have no problem doing that. But I make it very clear with clients, I'm not filing your AI generated petition. That is not going to happen. I'm not putting my name on that. We draft our own documents. And if they want to help in that way, it's great. But sometimes it ends up costing them more than it would have if they had just let us do it, because we look into something and it's not on point, or it's not a real case, or it's not applicable, or it's very easily differentiated. And then we spent all that time and we can't use anything from that time. So I don't get offended by it. I certainly can spot it. And I empathize with people why they'd want to use it, but you have to be so careful. I mean, do you have similar things with clients that they're sending you AI generated stuff, and are you going through the same thing?
Well, sometimes people believe they can do like a business valuation or, those types of forensic analyses via AI. But, that's usually you can ferret that out fairly quickly. But more
Yeah.
of what we see is people concluding, and I'd love your comments on this as well, concluding that their spouse has had coercive control over them or
Yeah.
manipulation, and AI has instructed them how to speak to a judge about it. And it
Hmm.
always takes us by surprise. And that's really not something we get into because we're very, much in the financial space here. But we certainly
Right.
see, and our clients will tell us, well, I'm going to tell the judge all these things. And we're taken back because we don't really believe that they're going to have that opportunity, nor will it impact their financial division of their assets and debts.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. I mean, that's right. The AI, some of the diagnoses I've seen, everyone's a narcissist, the coercive control is a huge hot topic. I mean, because there is something very real to that. And I think it is overlooked a lot of times by the courts in terms of it being something that is abuse, but it's not every situation. And the issue is that people can have traits of these things, but it doesn't necessarily mean that they are, you know, an abusive person because they exercise coercive control over a particular issue, or that they are a narcissist because they have tendencies that a narcissist has. And frankly, to your point, I don't know how much of it really matters to the court in terms of property division. In Illinois, we're a no-fault state. It certainly doesn't matter one bit. For parenting time and decision making, it might matter a little bit more, but the court isn't going to take, Chat GPT's diagnosis and say, man, they really nailed this. This guy cannot have any parenting time. Like they're going to have an expert evaluate if they suspect that something's really going on. But it is frightening, and it takes out the personal component too. When the AI is telling you, tell the judge this, speak about this, do things this way, because judges still have discretion. They still have a personality. They still have their, bias, even if they're not supposed to. There's certain things that you just can't necessarily help that you're not even aware of. And we know the judges. We know them. We know what makes them mad. We know what they like to see. We know what their level of patience is. And we know what's going to tick them off, frankly. But AI does not. I mean, they just don't. And so it is a long conversation sometimes when we have to kind of coach the client into, you're paying us for our advice. We know these judges. We could try it your way if you want, as long as it's not teetering on an ethical violation, but it's not going to work, right? And this is what we think we could do better. It's far too common these days, right?
Mm-hmm.
So
yeah, it really is. And it's great to have a resource that can give you a little bit of education, but to rely on this, I don't use Chat GPT, so it is. I don't even know how to use it, honestly. I know that when I Google something still, it probably gives me a chat answer, but I just don't know how to do it. So, but when
you would probably argue with it anyways, Catherine.
I probably would. That would probably kick me right out and say, Catherine, you're not playing nice and we're not going to do this, right? But what I do like is that if you're using it and you're asking whatever you're asking it, and yes, I agree with you. They're going to respond as your yes man, or what have you. But if you could use that as a resource to ask your attorney questions and understand that you're never talking to a judge. That's another thing I had a problem with. When I went to court with my ex, I tried talking to the judge when I was on stand because my ex, it was saying things I knew wasn't true. And I'm like, Your Honor. And he's like, nope, Catherine, you got to talk to your attorney. Your attorney will talk to me, And then I did it like 3 times, ma'am. You're not allowed to talk to me. You got to talk to your attorney So I would ask my attorney the same thing, who then would ask the judge the same exact question. We were doing this triangle in the same room. I'm like, this is so ridiculous. I even tried to talk to my ex in the courtroom saying, that's not true. And the judge said, Catherine, you're not allowed to talk to your ex in the courtroom. You have to talk to your attorney who will talk to his attorney. So that's how it works. You're never talking to the judge.
Right.
But you can ask your attorney if you're working with a communicative attorney like Jessica, right? And say, these are the questions I asked. This is what came out. Can you tell me what's appropriate? Tell me if this is right,
Yeah.
It's fair to do that. Totally fair to do that. But we have been on cases where we've sat there with our clients and we didn't know that they were doing this. And they would bring these chat GPT forms, and the attorneys will say, I'm not talking anymore. If you're going to bring me any of that, I'm not talking to you. Right. So because the client was using it as fact, like this is the way it's supposed to be. And, we had to tell our client, I don't think you should do it that way. Right. So, but use it as a tool. If you want to use it and then bring those appropriate responses or non-appropriate responses to your attorney and have them tell you what's good for you moving forward. Same thing with the business valuations. Sure. Yes, we get a lot of people that do this. And a lot of them are small companies and they come back with the valuations $1 million or, $800,000. So, you could say, I'd be happy with just getting $500,000 based on my estate. And if that number is good for you, fine, use that number, right? But also know that you're doing it with not all the right information. So for us,
Right.
clarity is knowing what you have, what you don't have, what data is verified, what data is not verified, and then you making the smart decision for yourself on which pathway you need to go down. And it sounds like you
Exactly.
do the same type of communication,
Yeah. Yeah,
which is the way it should be, because this is family law and families are supposed to communicate, right?
for sure. And it's empowering, I think, for people that are in a tough situation to be able to contribute in a way where they feel like they're helping themselves constructively, right? I mean, it's very different to draft something and say, I want you to file this using ChatGPT versus asking questions about stuff that you've read. My client's never going to offend me by asking me questions. I'm happy to explain anything to them, and that's why they hired me. But when they start to not take your advice or they say, I should just file the chat GBT version. It's like, well, then you're putting your name on that because I'm not doing it.
Yeah, right.
And you have to draw a line, right? It's
Yeah.
just the way of the world these days.
I want to ask you one more question because I know we have to wrap up, but what are your thoughts as an attorney when you get a client that comes to you and you might be their third attorney? Like, what is really an attorney thinking when a party's coming to you? Do you say, oh shit, this person had two other attorneys. What am I walking into? Is this a client problem? Is this an attorney problem? Because you know the other attorneys. Like, give us the real truth on what your thoughts are when they do attorney hop.
So the number of attorneys and the time frame both are equally important. And then who the attorneys are is also important because it could be if I was the third attorney, I don't know that I would be as suspect about it unless it was in quick succession, like the case is 5 months old and now I'm the third attorney in 5 months, versus I'm the third attorney. This has been going on for 2.5 years. The first attorney, I know, and they're collaborative, they don't litigate, and I could see why they would switch. The second attorney, you know, maybe they took the bench as a judge, maybe they were running for judge and they weren't dedicating as much time to cases anymore, or maybe it just wasn't a good fit personality wise. And so what I typically do when I get someone who's, they usually will tell you that they have an attorney currently or just had an attorney. I always look at the docket and I always check to see how long it's been, how many they've had. I'm not really super judgmental with people unless it's really egregious, because I do think that cases need fresh eyes sometimes. It could be a perfectly great attorney who's just, they're over it, or they're very busy, or I have other cases with them and I know that they have other big trials and they just didn't have it in them to litigate this. Or maybe they disagree with the client about an issue and they don't think it's winnable and they're advising the client not to do XYZ and the client wants to do XYZ. And maybe I have a different opinion on that. So really the circumstances matter more. But if I get someone where they're like, you're my seventh lawyer, the case is 8 months old, I'm just like, I need to understand what's going on here. Or maybe I don't. Maybe you've just said it all.
Right. Yeah, that's a good point. I never thought about that. The
But I
the,
try
the
to,
duration of the case. Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah.
and we try to be open-minded. I mean, changing attorneys doesn't make you a bad person. It doesn't make your case bad. It just depends on what the circumstances were that led to the position that you're in. Some people hire firms that are very large, that charge a lot of money, that send multiple attorneys to every court appearance, and it's sustainable and it's great until it's not. And so if someone comes to me and I'm their third attorney and they just came off of a huge firm that really does a lot of billing, I could understand why they need to change. They probably can't afford to keep up with it anymore, or they're sick of it.
Hmm.
Um, so it depends on the reason.
Yeah. Well, these were some really good points and really tough conversations. So I appreciate you allowing us to dig in a little bit deeper on the attorney side, because, we hear this all the time. And I'm sure if you're listening, you might be struggling with your attorney, and it might be that they are a good attorney, but they don't communicate well and you need
Yep.
better communication. Or just as Jessica said, there's lots of reasons why they might just not be a fit for you now. But you should check yourself if it's your seventh attorney in 8 months. That might be a you problem. And we all sometimes have a little bit of a you problem. So make sure if you have some at the end of the day, you need to be prepared and you need to be financially clear. And when you're financially clear, you're going to be able to take these steps to communicate with your attorney and make sure your communication is, your attorney is communicative. And that might be one of the questions you ask when you interview your attorney. So thank you for this conversation. And maybe you can let our clients know, or our listeners know, how they can find you.
Sure. Thank you so much for the opportunity. My firm can be found at www.illinoislawforyou.com. That's FORYOU, IllinoisLawForYou.com. Our phone number is 312-715-0870, and we offer a free consultation to see if we are a good fit and if you're a good fit for us. So we'd be happy to hear from potential clients. And thank you guys so much for this. I really appreciate it.
Oh, you're welcome, and thank you.
And I'm going to say thank you again, too, because this conversation is such an important reminder that divorce isn't something anyone can navigate passively. It definitely requires awareness, preparation, and the right support.
And to our listeners, take a breath. You know, this is your right to move at your pace. You don't need to make every decision today, and you're allowed to gather information before taking that next step so you can protect yourself.
And let knowledge be your power. And we'll see you in the next episode.
Thanks for joining us on another episode of We Chat Divorce. We hope this episode was informative and supportive on your divorce journey. If you're looking for more support for navigating divorce with confidence and clarity, head over to mydivorcesolution.com for more podcast episodes, divorce events, and resources for your divorce. We'll see you back here for our next episode.